The chamber is narrow, windowless, a box carved from stone and silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, breathing, watching. It carries a weight in it, a faint, metallic heaviness that stings the nose. Not blood, not yet. Something older. The smell of fear that has seeped into the walls over decades, refusing to be washed away. The same smell that witnesses once whispered about in the darker courts of Imperial China. Tonight, it rises again, because this is where the story of Mei Hua, age 19, begins. A girl accused not of murder or treason, but of something far more threatening to the empire: disobedience. She had hidden a message that was never meant to be read, a truth the officials swore she invented, a silence they labeled rebellion. And for that, she was dragged from her home at dawn, barefoot, wrists bound, hair heavy with dust. What terrified her most wasn't the magistrate, or the soldiers, or even the ropes tied around her wrists. It was the wooden frame waiting in the courtyard. A structure so simple it looked almost harmless. A frame soaked with history, heavy with sweat, and coated with the faint, sour scent of those who came before her. This is where our story begins. Not with a scream, not with a verdict, but with a breath, hers, trembling, thin, almost apologetic. Because Mei Hua had heard of this device. Everyone had. It was called the spreading frame, though women whispered another name for it: the widow's grip. A punishment designed not to mark the skin, but to pull the body away from itself, joint by joint, sinew by sinew, until the mind surrendered long before the bones did. No blades, no flames, just wood, rope, and calculation. What happened to Mei Hua that morning was not a spectacle. It was a procedure, cold, efficient, and recorded like a ledger entry. Her fate written in ink long before a soldier touched her. The frame stood waiting, its wooden beams darkened by the tears of women erased from the records. Its joints creaked faintly in the wind like an old animal waking, and beneath it, almost invisible, the same smell rose: damp fear, thick and stale, curling upward from the grain. The soldiers lifted her, one under each arm. Her knees buckled, not from pain, but from realization. She was no longer a daughter, no longer a seamstress, no longer a voice. She was an example, a message, a warning carved into living flesh. They placed her on the frame, arms stretched above her head, legs bound below. Ropes crossed her wrists and ankles, pulled taut across pulleys that gleamed with morning condensation. The executioners wore gray, their movements quiet, practiced, almost gentle. That gentleness was the cruelest part, because the frame didn't roar or snap or glitter like Western torture machines. It waited. Silent, patient, horrifyingly calm. As the magistrate unrolled the scroll and recited her accusations, concealment, defiance, refusal. Mei Hua barely heard him. Her heartbeat drowned him out. Every pulse thundered through her ribs, echoing against the wood beneath her. And underneath that rhythm came the smell again, stronger now. A smell that did not belong to this morning. A smell older than her, older than the empire itself. Fear soaked into timber. Fear that had memory. Fear that recognized her. When the first pull began, it was barely visible to an observer. A small tightening, a careful adjustment. But inside her body, it felt like lightning cracking through her joints. Her shoulders pulled upward, her hips downward. A sharp pressure snapped through her pelvis like a hidden blade made of wind. Pain did not announce itself. It slid in quietly, soft, precise, inevitable. The frame worked its cruelty like a conversation. Pull, pause, pull, pause, inviting her to feel every shifting inch of herself. Because the Empire didn't design this device to kill quickly. It designed it to reshape truth. To make confession feel like relief. To make silence feel suicidal. To make obedience feel like survival. The crank turned again. Her spine bent into a trembling arch. Her breath seized. Her ribs spread like gates, forced open by invisible hands. Executioners leaned in, studying her as if she were nothing more than a stubborn knot of rope. No emotion, no hesitation. They had done this hundreds of times. The damp smell thickened, saturating her breath. It filled her lungs, her thoughts, her memories. It became the air she lived on. Her vision blurred. Sweat dripped onto the wood. The frame drank it the same way it had drank the sweat of countless women before her. Because the widow's grip was never a device. It was a history book written in agony. Another turn. A sharper pull. A soft crack deep inside her hip. Not enough to break. Just enough to warn. This was the stage the officials called the opening. The moment the mind unraveled faster than the body, and history, sanitized and polished, would later call it interrogation. But this was not interrogation. This was ritual, a performance meant not for her, but for everyone who heard about her. Mei Hua groaned. Not a scream. Not yet. Her voice trembled like fabric tearing in slow motion. The soldiers did not react. The magistrate did not blink. Pain was expected. Silence was desired. Breaking was the goal. But something unexpected happened. Mei Hua stopped begging. Her trembling slowed. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes, swollen, glassy, lifted toward the sky beyond the courtyard. Wall.com. Defiant, unbroken, a silence so steady it terrified the officials, because a woman who stops fearing. Death is a woman the Empire cannot control. The soldiers hesitated. The magistrate's command cracked. Their hands shook. The damp smell, always hers, shifted. As if the air itself had grown uncertain. Fear had changed direction, and the Empire was not prepared. Yet the magistrate ordered the crank to turn again. Harder, violent this time. The ropes jerked her body in 4 directions at once. Her ribs pressed outward. Her spine curved into a shape no human body was meant to hold. Something tore inside her thigh, hot, sharp, unmistakable. She gasped, choking on the stale, sour scent rising from the frame. But still, she did not break. And in that refusal, something ancient cracked. Not wood, not rope. Not bone. Power. Because torture only works when fear flows one way. And today, that flow reversed. The executioners felt it first. A crawling unease, a trembling in their fingers. A guard near the gate shifted, swallowing hard. Women in the servants' quarters whispered, all too quietly to punish, but loud enough to fracture the air. The ritual was failing. the performance collapsing. Because Mei Hua had done something forbidden, she had survived long enough to be seen, not as a victim, not as a warning, but as a mirror, a reminder that systems built on cruelty eventually witness their own reflection. The frame did not kill her. Many victims died. She did not. She lived long enough to be carried away, hidden, erased from official record, but not from memory, not from the whispers, not from the fear she planted in her executioner's eyes. Every empire writes its laws in ink, but it sustains them with fear. And when fear falters, the laws begin to rot. Mei Hua's story is not just a tale of torture. It is a lesson, a warning carved in wood and silence. Because the structures that once stretched women toward obedience may be gone, but the systems that demand our silence are still very much alive. If you want more stories like this, dark, unfiltered, unflinching, stay with us, subscribe, witness, remember. Some histories must be heard before they are repeated. In the end, Mei Hua's suffering was not a relic of a vanished empire. It was a reminder, a mirror held up to every society that believes obedience is more valuable than humanity. The widow's grip may be gone, its wood rotting in forgotten storerooms, but the idea behind it survives wherever fear is used as law. Whenever a woman is punished for speaking, whenever a voice is silenced for choosing truth, whenever a system demands pain before it allows dignity, the device breathes again in another form. This story is not here to shock you. It exists to warn you, to show how quietly cruelty can become normal when no one questions it. How easily suffering can be rewritten as justice when people look away. And the lesson carved into Mei Hua's body is simple, brutal, unforgettable. When pain becomes law, humanity becomes disposable. And the moment we stop witnessing these stories, we risk repeating them. Remember her not as a victim of the past, but as a caution for the present. If this story shook you, let it stay with you. Let it make you question the systems around you. And if you believe these hidden histories deserve to be exposed instead of buried, then don't leave silently like the video. It helps these stories reach more people. Comment your thoughts. Your voice becomes part of the archive. Subscribe, because we go deeper than textbooks ever dared. Share this video. Someone else needs to know what was never meant to be remembered. This is Crimson Archive, and the truth is never gentle, but it must be heard.